Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Lewis Speaks 2024, and today I want to talk to you all about blessings. You know, there are times when we ask God to bless us with certain things like financial security, relationships, friendships, new housing, and there are times when we don't get our prayers answered immediately, so we begin to lose faith. We think that God has told us no, we think that He is not listening, we begin to doubt the existence of God. And the thing about it is sometimes God is just trying to prepare our hearts for the things that we say we want. Sometimes the things that we say we want in the moment are not things that we really want long term. Sometimes the very thing that we're asking for could be our destruction, and God sees this and He knows this, and in His infinite wisdom, He does not answer that prayer because He knows that to give us what we ask for in that respect would lead to our destruction. And it's kind of like a child. You know, a child will ask you when they're at the grocery store, they'll ask you for everything. They'll ask you for every candy that is on the shelf, every cereal, every juice, everything. And if a parent were to answer every one of the requests of that child, what will end up happening is that child will get sick, that child will be unhealthy, that child will not learn how to manage feelings of disappointment, that child would also not be able to manage being told no and boundaries. They won't be able to respect boundaries. And so, if that parent were to give that child everything that the child asked for, that child would not be able to survive in this world. You know? I know children who have been spoiled and they find it very difficult to discipline themselves. You know? There are children who have not received an ounce of discipline when they were younger. And so now, as an adult, they find it difficult to discipline themselves and to take responsibility and accountability for their actions because they had a caretaker catering to them, giving them everything that they wanted. So they became spoiled and they became unable to empathize with other people. And so I think our God is the same way. You know, he doesn't want to grant us anything that will hurt us. And sometimes we don't even see it. We don't see how certain things might be detrimental to us in the long run. All we know is that we're hurting now and we want now. We want what we ask for now. As I mentioned also, sometimes God wants us to do some work. There's some work that needs to be done on us, on the inner person, before we are ready to receive God's blessings. And I'll give an example. Sometimes we pray for healthy relationships and good friendships, but are we a good friend? Is there something that we need to work on within ourselves in order to prepare us for healthy relationships and healthy friendships? God knows that if He were to grant us that request now, we would not be able to hold on to those friends. And what would end up happening is that those relationships would end, and then we will blame God, and our faith would be crippled. You know, so rather than do that, God is telling us, hey, there's something inside of you that needs work. There's something inside of you that needs to be addressed before I can send you those relationships and those friendships. Because if it's not addressed, all you're going to end up doing is scaring those relationships off. All you're going to end up doing is grieving God's gift. And so I think a lot of times, you know, God does answer certain prayers. And I think He also does this to show us that, see, this is why I didn't always answer your prayer. Because when I did answer your prayer, I did give you the desire of your heart. You were not able to receive it. You were not ready for the things that you asked for. You know? People all the time, they ask for financial stability, financial security, but they don't realize that sometimes money will be their undoing. They don't realize that money can lead to a path of destruction, a path of excess, a path of hedonism that will cause them to lose sight of God's will and God's purpose. You know, another thing is we have to ask ourselves, is what we are asking for in alignment with God's purpose and his will for our lives? Is what we are asking God for in alignment with his purpose and his will? A lot of times what we ask for is selfish, you know? And of course, we'll try to spin it in a way that makes it universal, in a way that makes it in alignment with God's purpose. But the thing about it is you can't fool God. So don't try. You can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool God. He knows your motives. He knows your intentions. He knows the inner person. He knows the secret person of the heart. So if you think that you're going to sit up there and try to manipulate God, guess again. He's the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. So stop. Stop. And start instead getting real with yourself and ask yourself, what is the motivation behind your prayers? What can you do? What work can you do to prepare your heart to receive what you ask for? Because I think a lot of us that we want certain things, we want so many things, but we're not necessarily ready for the things that we say we want. And sometimes what we ask God for is just a no. It could be a no, it could be a not right now, and it could be a yes. You know? So we have to learn how to be patient, and we also have to learn how to love God behind the no. He says no, right? He sets that boundary. Do we still trust in him? Do we still love him, or do we get angry at him and just give up our faith and compromise our faith and our integrity because we feel that we are being ignored? The thing about it in the scriptures, God is the hearer of prayers. He does hear our prayers. At the same time, there are certain prayers that he won't hear, and that's why we have to make sure that we are living right, because it says in the Bible that he hears the prayers of the righteous. And so if you are living your life raggedy, chances are your prayers are going to be rejected, you know? Just as in the Bible, it mentions how certain sacrifices that people tried to offer God were rejected because God knew the motivation behind those sacrifices. He knew what the intention was behind those sacrifices. So he was like, nope, let me stop you right there. We have to make sure that we're living a clean, moral, pure life if we want our prayers to be answered. And that's the thing. Are you living a clean, moral, and healthful life? Or are you asking God for things while at the same time doing things that run contrary to his will and purpose? You know? And that's why the new prayer, what we should ask is, if it is your will for me to have blank. If it is your will for me to have blank. If you see that it will enhance my life. If you see that it will not enhance my life, it'll be my detriment, then I don't want it. I don't want it. If you see that it's going to undermine my relationship with you, if it's going to interfere with me building a better relationship with you, then I don't want it. I only want that in which draws me closer to God. That's it. And that's the mindset that we have to have. I only want whatever will draw me closer to God. That's it. That's all I want. Money, fame, prestige, approval, all this other stuff. No. If that's not going to draw me closer to God, I don't want it. Because in the end was when all is said and done, when all is put away, a lot of these people out here are miserable. They have the money. They have the stardom, the fame. They have the likes, the approval, the validation. They have the friends, quote unquote. They have it all. But yet and still, they're still miserable. Why? Why? Because they have not cultivated a sincere and genuine relationship with God. They have not cultivated that closeness and that full trust in God. They have not cultivated that. And because of that, they are miserable. And a lot of times people are good at using escape hatches. You know, they're good at using various things to avoid seeing the truth. You know, a lot of distractions, diversions, escape hatches, anything to circumvent seeing the truth. And so they try to sell this illusion of happiness, like they're really happy, independent of God. But the truth is they're not. We have learned time and time again, if you look throughout history, that human beings really lack the skill to provide eternal, lasting happiness. They don't know how to. And while they claim to have the answers, you see self-help books, you see a slew of pop psychology with the answers. It's only a band-aid to a bullet wound. It's only a band-aid to a bullet wound. It's not lasting. The thing about it is God will drag us, but in the end, that dragging will refine us, and we will be happy. And does that mean that we will always have joy in this world? No. In this world, which is run by the devil, we will have our troubles. We will have our strains and our struggles. But the thing is, we are given strength in order to endure. That's the difference. When we know God and His Son, Jesus Christ, we are given the strength to endure. But when we continue to try to do things our own way, we continue to try to live independent of God, we suffer because we were created with a need for worship. We were created with a spiritual need. Matthew 5:3 reads, "Happy is the man conscious of his spiritual need." That's the thing. We can see how people are on a search for something higher. We see so many people practicing things like divination, astrology, witchcraft. They're searching for something higher, but they're going about it the wrong way, because those things, that's opening a gateway to demonic forces. So you can definitely see people are hungry for something higher and the need to worship something more. But once again, they want to create their own gods, their own spiritual regimen, independent of God. God is asking them to transform, but they want to stay the same and they want to do what they want to do. They also want power. I've noticed that a lot of times people that look towards the dark arts and witchcraft and blood magic and all these other things, oftentimes, the New Age, they're looking for power. They have been disempowered throughout their entire life, and what they're looking for is power control. They want to be able to control certain aspects of their lives because they have not been able to, But yeah, basically we were created with that spiritual need. And as long as we run away from that, we're not going to witness true happiness. So my thing is this. When you pray, definitely pray and ask for more than just things that you want. Pray for God's will. Pray for His kingdom to come. Pray for His will to be done on earth as in the heavens. Pray that way. Pray asking for things that are in alignment with God's will for your life, because everything else is short-lived. It's impermanent. It provides temporary enjoyment, but like a mist and like smoke, it disappears.